Penguin Random House presents Swami Vivekananda, The Living Vedanta by Chaturvedi Badrinath. Read by Dev J. Haldar. Dedicated to Bhuvaneshwari Devi, mother of Swami Vivekananda. All expansion is life. All contraction is death. All love is expansion. All selfishness is contraction. Love is therefore the only law of life. He who loves, lives. He who is selfish is dying. Therefore, love for love's sake, because it is the only law of life, just as you breathe to live. This is the secret of selfless love, selfless action, and the rest. Swami Vivekananda. The dry Advaita must become living, poetic, in everyday life. Out of hopeless, intricate mythology must come concrete moral forms, and out of the bewildering yogiism must come the most scientific and practical psychology. And all this must be put in a form that a child may grasp it. That is my life's work. Swami Vivekananda. Acknowledgements. Women had a central place in the life and work of Swami Vivekananda. It is, therefore, apt and artistically perfect that it should be a woman, Kamini Mahadevan, editor at Penguin India and now managing editor Pearson Education, who invited me to write this book on him. And just as the Swami kept expressing his eternal gratitude to what those women did for him, I wish to express my gratitude both to Kamini Mahadevan and to Penguin India. I owe a debt of gratitude to Pravrajika Atmaprana of Sri Sarda Mutt, New Delhi, and I am glad to have this opportunity of expressing it. In March 1996, under the auspices of the Goethe Institute, known in India as Max Muller Bhavan, I had spoken on Swami Vivekananda and Western Women, the Living Vedanta. The Pravrajika most graciously gave me not only much of her time in discussing Sister Nivedita, of whom she has written the superb biography mentioned in this book, but also her personal copy of Letters of Sister Nivedita, and helped me get a copy for myself. She has been ever so gracious and kind whenever I have called her. Furthermore, I am grateful to Pravrajika Prabuddha Prana for graciously sparing an afternoon to enable me to meet her during her visit to New Delhi last year. Her two works, Tantine, The Life of Josephine MacLeod, friend of Swami Vivekananda, and Saint Sarah, The Life of Sarah Chapman Bull, the American mother of Swami Vivekananda, are indispensable for understanding the Swami, and I have derived from both many facts concerning him hitherto unknown, because concealed but very significant. The Pravrajika truly belongs to that tradition of Swami Vivekananda in which truth was an abiding passion. To Tulsi, my daughter, who is thoroughly familiar with the Ramakrishna Vivekananda literature, for reading the pages of this book as they were being written and for making suggestions as regards the text that were exceedingly helpful. I am grateful to Surendra Munshi, to his wife Shrabana and their daughter Sharika, for finding me a copy of Srimad Swami Vivekananda's Jibaner Ghotanaboli, written in Bengali by Mahendranath Datta, Swami Vivekananda's younger brother. Sharika went all over Calcutta, now Kolkata, looking for Mahendranath, and found him. Surendranath and Shrabana consulted him as regards the suicide of Swami's unnamed sister, translated that portion into English for me, read some of the chapters of this book as they were being written, and offered comments that were most encouraging. I am grateful to Irina Severin of Switzerland for reading the whole book in its first draft and for her encouraging comments as from one who was meeting Swami Vivekananda for the first time in the pages of this book. On reading chapter 11, she fled to her room to cry, as she told me later, as Sister Nivedita and Sarah Bull had done a little more than a century earlier, on hearing Swami Vivekananda, on hearing Vivekananda speak of his inner torments. It is not easy for me to write that chapter either. To Peter Severin for reading the book in its first draft and for his very insightful comments, particularly on the question of simultaneity in the happenings in a person's life, and the difficulty of expressing it in language, with which chapter 10 opens. To Gerald Daly for the loving attention with which he read this book in its final form and for his several insightful and encouraging comments. I am most thankful to Vijay Kumar Jain, who has in Gurgaon, where I lived when this book was being written, a bookshop of old books, for quickly finding Swami Vivekananda, Patriot, Prophet, by Bhupendranath Datta, Swami Vivekananda's youngest brother. It was a great relief when Bhupendranath arrived the day I looked for him, to know from him many details, especially some names not found elsewhere, concerning the family in which the Swami was born, the subject of chapter 1. I am most thankful to the Advaita Ashram, Kolkata, the publishers of Sister Gargi's classic 6-volume Swami Vivekananda in the West, Some New Discoveries, for permitting me to use some historical material concerning Swami Vivekananda's work and relationships in the West, and incorporating a few quotations from her work. I am most thankful to my Bengali cook, Sumitra, for helping me in many small ways during my writing this book, apart from supplying me with ginger tea through the day. Though totally illiterate, she quickly learned to recognize by their color, shape and the way in which the title of the book is printed all the books pertaining to Swamiji and to Sri Ramakrishna in my study, and would fetch for me unfailingly accurately those I wanted from among them. That saved me much labor, for often they were kept in different places. Moreover, wanting to learn, she became my immediate audience on whom I daily tested, successfully, Swami Vivekananda's belief that if conveyed in a simple language, even a child could understand the Vedanta. Sister Nivedita would have forthwith transferred Sumitra to the Nivedita Girls' School. Chaturvedi Badrinath, January 2006. Introduction. Vivekananda is much more than the Swami Vivekananda. Few know Swami Vivekananda, Vivekananda even fewer. Swami Vivekananda's life is inseparable from his changing responses to the social conditions of his times in India and of the West equally so. But this is not all. There is in all human lives the interplay of history and transcendence, in the life of a man like Swamiji even more so. The tension between the two would become a source also of his self-division, for history began to trouble him more and more. With its inner turmoil and pain, that division of the self increased very nearly in the same measure as the spectacular progress of his mission in the West. He gave expression to it in many of his letters to those American women, Mary Hale, Josephine McLeod, Sarah Chapman Bull, Christine Greenstidle, later Sister Christine, and to Margaret Noble, later Sister Nivedita, who loved him and understood what he was. They understood that he had a mission, the work, rooted in the history of his times, but which simultaneously transcended all history and touched the deepest longings of the human soul. He was concerned with both, and thus spoke two languages, the languages demanded by history and the language beyond all history, with a passion that was uniquely his. To meet Vivekananda is to float with him in these two worlds at the same time. Furthermore, in meeting Swami Vivekananda, one necessarily meets many other persons in India and the West, into whose lives he had come as a light and who had come into his life with their grace of love and care. Each of them had his or her history of the mind and circumstance, as he had his. They do not constitute just a catalogue of names only to be recited in the chanting of the Swami Vivekananda litany. Each of them shows, in different ways, the complexities of human aspirations and character, through which alone, and not in some abstract haze of spirituality or in the beating of drums of creed and doctrine, is life lived. Swami Vivekananda was pointing to life where alongside its complexities is its utter simplicity, blissful joy, coexisting with the pain and suffering of being human. In Vivekanandian thought, neither of the two ever remained unrelated to the other. However, it is also true that if those
Sample complete. Ready to continue?